Hi everybody. I want to remind you at the onset of this video that the purpose of research, when we're writing analysis or other critical essays, anything that isn't a straight report, is to join an ongoing conversation. You are not here to promote and prop up someone else's research. You have your own original idea. Research is there to support you and to provide touchstones for your ideas, to provide a context, etc. Before we take another look at integrating sources, let's start with writing an evaluation. In order to evaluate anything, we must decide upon criteria by which we make that evaluation. For example, acting. Here we have 4 actors playing the creature in a vastly different contexts. It would be difficult to say absolutely that De Niro makes a better creature than Karloff, or vice versa. For one thing, the films attempt to accomplish different goals, and the actors were directed to focus their efforts and characterization toward meeting those goals. If I wanted to evaluate Karloff's performance in the 1931 version of Frankenstein, it would be wise, then, to create criteria that take into consideration the goals of that film. He is not credited with the same keen intellect and profound feeling as the creature in the novel, in the film starring De Niro, or in Showtime's Penny Dreadful at the bottom right. But he still does convey a few subtle emotions, such as the subtle transition seen here. Of course, if we were to compare the actors in general, and not those specific performances, many of us would probably say De Niro is the best actor in the lot. If you wanted to make claims like that, or if one wanted to say that Angela Bassett is consistently overlooked by the Academy Awards, it helps if one has criteria and evidence upon which to make those claims. Here, I give you a few examples. Range. De Niro has shown himself capable in all genres, especially comedic acting, in his later career. He has convincingly played down-and-out boxers, vigilante taxi drivers, gangsters, and a recovering catatonic, at first amazed at his recovery, and then angry and afraid as he slowly degenerates back into his walking death. Charisma. We might point to moments when De Niro absolutely absorbs our attention. Chemistry with other actors. His work with Billy Crystal or Joe Pesci, bringing out some of Pesci's best. Kathy Moriarty, etc. But what if I wanted to evaluate an article? Either as a review of that article or as part of our research for our own essay. All of the lessons about having a strong thesis, about having good logic, about having the best evidence possible, making ourselves clear, responsibly and effectively dealing with opposition, etc. All of these lessons can be used as criteria for evaluating a book or an article. I asked you to read Anne K. Millore's essay from our Norton Critical Edition of Frankenstein. It works out pretty well because I'm sure quite a few of you in your own research will run into compilations or anthologies of essays on the same topic, and you'll have to decide which of those articles to include in your essay, and then you'll have to evaluate the article for what you will include from that article and how it fits into your argument. First, you'll want to outline the article in front of you. In the interest of time, I haven't pulled every topic claim from Malore's article, but the whole thing, as you saw, is pretty darn good and fairly convincing. Here, I pulled the thesis sentence that implicit to the horror of Frankenstein's ambition is a desire to create a society that is entirely male. The first topic claim after that states that creating a new life without the presence of a woman inherently devalues women. And the second topic claim is that the separation of public sphere and private sphere also separates work from love, which means the monster must go unloved because men have created a world in which that doesn't happen in the public sphere of their endeavors. Your thesis is your evaluation as a whole. The article is valuable to blank for understanding blank. If there are weaknesses, begin with those in your body. If your overall impression is positive, don't end on the negative. If you're going to mention style, that's probably the weakest reason an academic argument is worth our time. So begin there. Start with your minor points, work your way to major. Always include direct quotes from the text as concrete evidence to support your claims. Personally, I think Malore's article is essential for undergraduate and graduate students to begin their understanding of the complex ways in which gender roles play a part in Mary Shelley's modern myth of birth and death. While I think Malore's evidence could be bolstered a bit here and there, overall, she takes the time to start at very basic assumptions and gender structures and slowly builds to her bigger claims about the attack on female sexuality. Such an evaluation could be a small article. If we're tackling something big enough, it could be a long article. It could even be a book-length celebration or rebuttal, depending on the complexity of the project. More likely than anything, you'll first evaluate an article by its relevance to your essay, its objectivity, etc., and then we'll evaluate the topic claims inside the article for those that are most relevant to your ideas, and which offer the most strenuous objection to your ideas, or the most promising challenge to develop your ideas more fully. At which point, you will respond to those evaluations. You might have a source with which you disagree. As we've said before, there's nothing in the world easier than disagreement. The bigger challenge is advancing someone else's argument into new terrain or incorporating them into your own view. Here, I have a topic claim, which I've color-coded into the topic, and then the two parts of the claim, that of Shelley's memory of her mother and the purpose for calling upon that memory. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein calls upon the memory of her mother's scandalous love life in order to condemn men for their careless destruction of female independence. Here, we see the entire paragraph. Don't worry about trying to write it all down. I have a copy of it in PDF following this video. What you could do, however, is take notes on what I wish to point out. That is, the topic claim ends where the green words begin. At that point, I'm offering my reasons, and here I first integrated Mallore's article because I mentioned Mallore's name in the tag phrase. As Anne K. Mallore points out, I do not need to name her in the in-text citation, just the page number. I would also like to point out that the citation occurs immediately when I'm done with Mallore and move on to my own reasoning again. In red, where it starts Fuseli, who had been a supporter of Wollstonecraft, I offer some biographical evidence that Shelley purposefully references her mother, and then I conclude at these events, especially with the reference to Fuseli's painting, etc. My ideas begin the paragraph, my ideas conclude them. The Mallore article is there to help me, and I'm also recognizing that I'm not the first person to discuss gender and birth in Frankenstein. I must acknowledge the work of these others so that I don't repeat what has already been done, and so that those who follow me can also effectively join the conversation. All right, everyone, be well, be happy, go forth and start evaluating some texts. Talk to you soon.